MSNBC claimed that it was going to be the liberal network or the answer to Fox News. Yet, strangely enough, on MSNBC, you will find its various hosts trashing the most liberal senator in the race, or basically anybody who's an outsider, but mostly they've been going after Senator Bernie Sanders. Let me give you some examples.
No, but you get the wrong candidate, you might lose the whole thing. What about Bernie Sanders? Do you think he's a danger as a president, as a candidate?
Bernie Sanders does have a sort of physicality, when he talks, that is a shaking your finger at Hillary Clinton, shaking your finger, shovey, weirdy, his physicality.
How much of danger is that Bernie Sanders, who's now leading in the polls?
First of all, I think Bernie's lying.
For me, as again, I'm not the political analyst here, but just as a woman, probably considered a somewhat moderate Democrat, Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl.
Suppose you're lying on a road hurt. Which of the candidates would stop their car and get out and help you? I think Biden wins that one pretty easily. I think Elizabeth maybe. I don't think Bernie wins it.
And I can't even identify for you what exactly it is, but I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate.
We see him, he slouches forward anyway, Joy, but here he turtles. If you look at his eye level where he normally answers questions, when he makes the denial, his whole shoulders come up like a little kid getting caught. His eye level is below his shoulders. This is trying to hide in plain sight.
How big a danger would he be to the country or to the party, the Democrats?
So, look, that's just an example of MSNBC going after the most well-known outsider candidate in the race. But he's not the only one, as I'm going to show you later on. But this is happening as Bernie Sanders is surging in Iowa, New Hampshire, California, and Texas. And even nationally, some of the new polls have Bernie Sanders overtaking Joe Biden, even though there are averages that are still showing Biden ahead. Now, despite all of that, Bernie Sanders had been left out of the station's coverage of the 2020 elections altogether at first, had been excluded from graphics. His polling and fundraising numbers were misreported to make him look less successful. And while all that was going on, Biden had actually gotten a lot more positive coverage from the network, despite, of course, numerous issues, including gaffes in the campaign trail, his penchant for invading people's personal space, and statements on his past that just aren't true. Now, according to a June 2019 analysis of data from the Global Database of Events, Language and Tone by Columbia Journalism Review's public editor for MSNBC, Maria Bastulos, found that Biden had received the bulk of the station's 2020 election coverage. So he was covered more, and not only that, but covered more positively. According to her data, Biden hadn't received the lion's share of the coverage on the network since the announcement of his candidacy on April 25th. And an analysis of the transcripts from MSNBC from August and September by In These Times that looked at how often Sanders, Biden, and Warren were mentioned and the tone of the coverage produced similar findings. Over the 2 months, these 6 programs focused on Biden, often to the exclusion of Warren and Sanders. Sanders received not only the least total coverage, less than 1/3 of Biden's, but also had received the most negative. And that, of course, goes along with the video clip that I had showed you. And so and by the way, this is not only hurts Bernie Sanders. It also hurts pretty much every other candidate that isn't Joe Biden. People like Andrew Yang, for example, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, personally, I'm not a supporter of Andrew Yang, but his campaign has actually been really impressive, especially since he is an outsider candidate and no one had ever heard of him. MSNBC literally had a blackout of Andrew Yang. Now, there's graphics where Andrew Yang was literally completely left out of the situation. For example, you had a graphic from October 3rd of last year showing fundraising numbers. Andrew Yang raised more money than Cory Booker. Cory Booker raised about $6 million. Yang, in that quarter, raised actually a staggering $10 million. Where was Andrew Yang? Where was Andrew Yang? Well, they left him out. They left him out on purpose. Why? Because he's an outsider candidate, and all that attention either went to going after Bernie Sanders and attacking him, or trying to prop up Joe Biden. So it's not just Bernie, it's basically every candidate except for Joe. And why is that? Why are they pushing Joe Biden so hard? It's not as if he does the best against Trump. No, it's been shown poll after poll. Bernie Sanders does the best against Donald Trump, but not just that, but nearly every other politician that is running, every other candidate that is running, with the exception of Amy Klobuchar and Tulsi Gabbard, actually beats Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup. It's just that Bernie Sanders tends to beat him by the most, followed by Joe Biden and the other candidates. So why are they pushing? It's not electability. No. It's because this is who the MSNBC executives want. And there's a reason. Now, Joe Biden has received 17 large campaign contributions from Comcast executives and vice presidents at the company, including 8 for the maximum of $2,800. Of all the other candidates still in the race, only South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg has received any Comcast executive contributions. Buttigieg received a single contribution from Comcast Managing Director Amy Vance. Comcast top lobbyist, however, David Cohen, had co-hosted a Biden kickoff fundraiser in April and is a bundler for his campaign, meaning that, of course, he has collected at least $25,000 in contributions from others towards Joe Biden's campaign. And look, it's not just this election cycle. It appears that almost every election cycle, MSNBC had constantly supported and donated, the executives at Comcast, who owns MSNBC, had donated and bundled towards the campaign of Joe Biden. Since 1989, the company's executives and other employees have actually given Biden's campaign a total of $153,566. They are literally the ex-senator's 7th largest career contributor, according to data from the Center for Responsive Politics. Now, why would they support Joe Biden? Well, you're not going to be shocked as why. Joe Biden had promised his donors, i.e., executives from Comcast, that under his presidency, nothing will fundamentally change. Not only that, but very specific policy proposals, like, for example, net neutrality, have been opposed by Joe Biden. Now, that's actually great news for Comcast because they hate net neutrality rules. CNET reported that back in 2007, following his refusal to adopt net neutrality protections in 2006, he declined to co-sponsor the Internet Freedom Preservation Act, a bipartisan bill that would amend the Communication Act of 1934 to include net neutrality provisions. So he had 2 chances in 2006, 2007 to support net neutrality protections. He did not. Now, contrast that with Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Now, Bernie Sanders was a co-sponsor of that bill in 2007. So he's been wanting to protect net neutrality. And Elizabeth Warren, she was also a co-sponsor of Senator Ed Markey's net neutrality bill in February of 2014, just weeks after becoming a U.S. senator. So Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders actually have a great track record on net neutrality. Joe Biden has a great track record of going against net neutrality, which is exactly why Comcast loves Joe Biden. Now, they've also spent, in addition to funding Joe Biden's campaigns, millions lobbying against net neutrality protections. Now, Bernie Sanders has called for Comcast's regional broadband internet and cable monopolies to be broken up, and Warren has called for aggressive antitrust actions against these tech companies. Biden, as he mentioned before, wants to keep the status quo. Nothing will fundamentally change. Follow the money. That's why MSNBC loves Biden, pushes Biden, and hates Bernie Sanders and any sort of outsider candidate. It's about the policies. It's not electability. It's about the money. Bernie Sanders and any progressive represent a challenge to their business interests. And that's it. Joe Biden, he loves big business, corporate mergers, loves those. that have helped companies like Comcast become regional monopolies where they can basically charge you whatever you want, and you have no choices. Joe Biden is not a friend to consumers. Instead, he works for the corporations, and that's why, as a corporation, Comcast and MSNBC want him so badly to defeat Senator Bernie Sanders. As usual, as always, follow the money. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.